In the Zohar, Talmud, and Kabbalah, the entire thing is separation of people to Israelitic and non-Israelitic according to the book called Jewish Utopia. Now, they are building their own kingdom. It's the Jewish earthly kingdom with headquarters in Jerusalem, where their AI Messiah will be, and they're going to rule the world through the law. You know, it will be international, one law, one religion, basically, Luciferian religion. So yes, in a Talmud, this is the Jewish earthly kingdom, and this is why the Zionist Christianity have embraced Chiliasm. They have embraced, or Chiliasm, I don't know how you would say.
Chiliasm. Which means 1,000.
1,000.
Where they get the 1,000-year millennial reign.
Exactly, which is a focus on earthly millennial kingdom. And this is how Jews and Christians are getting together, and Christians are so deceived thinking that they're working for the good thing, for the Jews, like they're helping the Jews. The Jews are supposed to get this kingdom. Yet this is Zoharic doctrine, and it does not have good intention. As I said, that they want to rule the world, they want to get Gentile riches, and they want to rule the Gentiles. They don't consider Gentiles fully human beings. And in fact, as an end game, they have this strange doctrine, Adam Kadmon doctrine, which Adam Kadmon originally was, according to Zohar and Talmud, he was androgynous. You know, Adam, like he wasn't male, or he was male, female in one body. And this is why you see this transgender agenda today, and there are laws, very serious laws, passing in Alberta, Canada.
Is Zionism behind the transgender movement?
You know, I don't think Zionist Christians are aware of this. They're not aware of many details of what is
Zionism.
But I think that, yes.
Does the transgender movement get its origin in Zionism?
Yes, it gets its origin in Zionism, and it gets its origin in the Talmud, Zohar, and Kabbalah. It's a Kabbalistic doctrine of Adam Kadmon, which is eventually they have this doctrine called Tikkun Olam, repairing the world. Yes. So how do they want to repair the world? They want to bring it to the original. Who was original Adam? He was androgynous. So now they're putting specific things in food and drink, and they're basically their end game is to make humans that on Earth that will survive whatever it is they're bringing androgynous. The transgender agenda.
What they're really trying to do is undo God's.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 33, verse 13. It reads, And the clay is in the pot, and as the clay is in the potter's hand to fashion it at his pleasure, so man is in the hand of him that made him, to render to them as liketh him best. Good is set against evil, and light against dark, and life against death. So is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly. So look upon all the works of the Most High, and there are two and two, one against another. Shalom Akim. Kohala Yamla, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashi, Bahashem, Ruchakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who rule well and who teach well. Shalom to the Akim out there that's pushing the truth, that's laboring in the word, and that's pushing the gospel of the great kingdom that's going to come. Shalom to the Akwath that's listening in, that's remaining true to the faith and remaining faithful and submissive to their husbands and guiding their children. And Shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes that scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. You Israelite foreigners out there who live among the heathen and who look like those heathen nations, but your lineage goes back to the progenitors of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel through the line of your fathers. All right. Peace and blessings to you all. Barakatham. It's your brother Zakaria Allah, branched out here in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, come with another lesson through the Spirit. Lord willing, this be edifying. So the name of this lesson is going to be Two Worlds Mirror the Opposite. All right? Two worlds mirror the opposite. So in this video, all right, in the video that I shared, you see a couple, all right, who discusses the world that's shaping before us, right? The wife was addressing the plans of these people, okay, and how everything was taking place on the global scale today goes back to their religion centered around what's known as the Talmud, right? The Talmud is a text pretty much which which is the perversion of the Torah, or the Tharawah in the Hebrew, okay, and the Bible as a whole. So the Talmud, all right, Talmud, for those who don't know, the Talmud was developed and compiled in Babylon by pretty much by wicked Israelite priests, you know what I'm saying, who strayed from the path, from the teachings of our righteous forefathers, you know what I'm saying, and essentially they fell into idolatry. You know what I'm saying? Yet the practices and the rituals contained in that book are the commonly held teachings amongst most of these people who call themselves JOOs, right? Although if you ask them directly, they'll deny that. Okay? And these people who call themselves JOOs, all right, their own lineage goes back to Amalek, all right? And Amalek is the head tribe of the nation of Edom. Okay? Very few people know this fact. Outside of the prophets and those of the ruling class, those of the elite banking families. Very few people know this. But back to the video. All right? Because as you're going to see, everything that these people are doing is a direct mirror, all right, a direct mirror of what's going to happen for the Israelites in the future. All right? Only it's twisted in darkness. As you heard her speak about, you know what I'm saying, androgyny, all right, how as opposed to Adam and Eve, okay, being two twined into one as one body, you have the teachings of these so-called JOOs, all right, according to their Talmud and their Kabbalist beliefs, that Adam was an androgynous, all right, if that's how you pronounce it, androgynous, all right. So he had both male and female sort of genitalia, so to speak, right? A lot of that is where you get the Baphomet, where you see that goat and it has male and female, you know what I'm saying, genitalia, all right? But you have to remember that this is all an attempt pretty much to regain the birthright that their forefather Esau had sold, okay? And that's a very important point that you have to remember. All right, in the video, she mentioned that they're in the midst of building their own kingdom, all right, with Jerusalem being their headquarters. And literally, this is what's going to happen in the kingdom of Israel, where the throne of David is going to be established, right? So let's go to Isaiah chapter 16. All right, Isaiah chapter 16 and verse 5. It reads, "And in mercy shall the throne be established, and he shall sit upon it in truth in the tabernacle of David, judging and seeking judgment and hasting righteousness. All right? That's Yahushua when he comes back. Also in the book of Isaiah, let's stay here and let's go to chapter 9. All right, Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 6. It says, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. And his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty Power, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace." All right. Verse 7. "Of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The zeal of Yahweh Tazabawath will perform this." All right. So also in the video, she mentioned, all right, she mentioned that their kingdom will have one religion, all right, based upon their artificially made God, okay? And this is why you see all this artificial intelligence, this AI everywhere, okay? They're trying to build, all right, they're trying to build a God of their own, okay? And that their kingdom will be focused on a worldly aspect rather than a spiritual one, all right? And she said for 1,000 years. Well, this is going to happen in the opposite perspective, right? Where our Lord Yahushua, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus, will reign in Jerusalem, resting upon the 12 pillars. All right, those 12 pillars being his apostles, the disciples, right? And of those apostles, will be led by King David, okay, at the helm of the 12, right? And of whom the 12 will lead the rest of the 144,000 men who will govern the world, okay? This is the order of the new kingdom that's coming. Let's go to Revelation. This is Revelation chapter 14, verse 1. It reads, "And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written in their foreheads. The name of the Father is Yahweh. The name of the Son is Yahushua." Verse 2, "And I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder, and I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. And they sung as it were a new song before the throne, and before the four beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song, but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth." All right? The 144,000 are the men of the Lord, the prophets. All right? The prophets, the teachers. You see what I'm saying? And after Yahushua regathers his elect from the nation of Israel, okay, which was scattered, all right, which also includes the innumerable multitude of Israelites. Okay, we've been scattered into every country. Every country. All right, according to Matthew, the 24th chapter. All right, the 31st verse. And you can also go to Isaiah chapter 11, verse 11. You see what I'm saying? But after Yahushua regathers his elect, beginning with the 144,000, then this will begin their 1,000-year reign. All right, Salaki. All right. So this is going to begin the 1,000-year reign. All right, which is also known as the first resurrection. And during this time period, the world is going to be refreshed. You know what I'm saying? The nations will be subjugated and taught our ways. Okay, as it's written in Psalms, the 149th chapter. All right, this is Psalms 149, verse 8. You can start at verse 5, but I'm going to get to the point. It says, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron, to execute upon them the judgment written, dishonor have all his saints, praise ye the Lord Yahweh. Okay? And the saints are the Israelites. You go to Psalms chapter 148, verse 14, it tells you that. Okay? So as we gather all these nations, okay, and for 1,000 years we will teach them our ways, all right, their weapons are going to be melted, all right, they're going to be melted down, they're going to be destroyed, okay, and then there will be no more wars, no more fighting, and life will begin anew. Okay? And life will begin anew, man. After 1,000 years, you know what I'm saying? After this process is done, because it's going to take 1,000 years to fix all the things that Esau's done. It's going to take 1,000 years to clean up the minds of all these heathen nations. You see what I'm saying? Because they've all been what? They've all been westernized. You know what I'm saying? So after this 1,000-year period, the rest of the nations will go back to their lands in peace. But the nation of Edom will be eradicated forever, according to Obadiah chapter 1, verse 18. All right? So I went and I had a chat with Venice. All right? Now, Venice is an AI program, much like ChatGPT. All right? And I asked it questions similar to what Elder Yashawamba had asked ChatGPT. But what I did differently was I also asked it the opposite, right? So let's check it out. Bear with me. All right? So I asked Venice, if the biblical Edomites were in control of the world today, how would they rule it? And Venice said, if the biblical Edomites were in control of the world today, their rule would likely be shaped by the historical and cultural narratives associated with them in the Bible and the broader context of ancient Near Eastern politics. The Edomites are described as descendants of descendants of Esau, the twin brother of Jacob, which is also known as Israel, Yashar Allah. And their relationship with the Israelites is often portrayed as one of rivalry and conflict. All right. Given the biblical accounts, an Edomite-ruled world might exhibit the following characteristics. Centralized power. The Edomites are often depicted as a powerful and centralized kingdom, which could translate into a strong authoritarian form of governance with a focus on maintaining control and order. All right? We see much of that. Number 2, strategic alliances and enmities. Historically, The Edomites formed alliances and conflicts based on strategic interests. An Edomite-ruled world might see a complex web of alliances and enmities with a focus on securing resources and power. Securing resources and power. You see this with NATO, the NATO alliance, all right? The North Atlantic Treaty Treaty Organization, all right? So you have that. You have the European Union, okay? You have the Club of Rome, okay? All these strategic alliances, right? Religious influence. The Edomites had their own deities and religious practices, which were distinct from those of the Israelites. An Edomite-ruled world might promote a form of religious syncretism or a return to ancient Near Eastern religious practices, potentially leading to a diverse but sometimes conflicting religious landscape. Let's look that up. Let's look up syncretism. All right, and add to mine online. Syncretism. In theology and philosophy, attempted reconciliation of different beliefs, parties, etc. All right? A reconciliation of different beliefs, parties, etc. What do we see happening right now? All right, they're bringing together what's known as the Abrahamic Accords. Okay? The Abrahamic Accord. Let's look that up real quick. All right, what is the Abrahamic Accords? The Abrahamic Accords are agreements that normalized diplomatic relations between Israel and several Arab countries, including the UAE, United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain, and Morocco, all right, etc. So let me see here real quick. All right, this is from Reuters. What was this? 4 days ago. All right. Trump, he says it's important that Middle Eastern countries join Abrahamic Accords. And the Abrahamic Accords, all right, that's what's going to merge Christianity, Islam, and Judaism all under one banner. All right, so let's go back. Okay, so let me read that again. The Edomites had their own deities and religious practices, which were distinct from those of the Israelites. An Edomite-ruled world might promote a form of religious syncretism, emerging, or a return to ancient Near Eastern religious practices, potentially leading to a diverse but sometimes conflicting religious landscape. The Abrahamic Accords. Economic focus. The Edomites were known for their trade and agricultural prowess, particularly in the production of wine and the control of trade routes. An Edomite-ruled world might prioritize economic development and trade with a focus on agricultural and commercial success. All right, we have seen the different industrial academics and industrial industries. What's the word? Industrial revolutions, excuse me. All right, because right now they're trying to enter us into what's known as the fourth industrial revolution. Okay, so we've seen that. Okay, economic focuses, okay, in building those trade partnerships. Right now, we're seeing these Edomites impose what's known as tariffs. Okay, and that's affecting what? It's affecting trade heavily. You see what I'm saying? So number 5, military might. Military might. This is another big one. The Edomites were a militaristic people, often engaging in conflicts with neighboring kingdoms. Often engaging in conflicts with neighboring kingdoms. An Edomite-ruled world might place a strong emphasis on military strength and expansion, with a large and powerful standing army. We want Greenland. We want New Zealand. You see what I'm saying? We want Canada. We want Panama. You see? We want New Mexico. Literally, Donald Trump is talking about going into Mexico and taking on the cartels. Is he really trying to take on cartels? No, he's trying to take over Mexico. You see what I'm saying? Look at what's going on with these Amalekites. Okay? Let me show you this video real quick. All right? This is from General Wesley Clark. Listen to this.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who had used to work for me. And one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me." And I saw him a year or so ago, and I said, "You remember that?" He said, "Sir, I didn't show you that memo. I didn't show it to you."
Again, number 5, military might. The Edomites were a militaristic people, often engaging in conflicts with neighboring kingdoms. An Edomite-ruled world might place a strong emphasis on military strength and expansion, with a large and powerful standing army. All right. What did General the general say? He said if every problem, all right. He said if all the tool that you have is a hammer, then every problem has to look like a nail. Right? This is Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 23. It says, let's start at verse 22. "A sound of battle is in the land, and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations?" Let's go to Isaiah chapter 14. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 5. Let's start at verse 4. That thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord Yahweh hath broken the staff of the wicked, and the scepter of the rulers. Verse 6. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted and none hindereth. And how did these Edomites oppress the whole world? Through their military might. The very blessing that Isaac had given Esau, and it came down to his descendants. They were blessed with the sword. Right? Isaac told Esau that by thy sword ye shall live. And this is how he lived, through his military might. Number 6. All right, number 6, cultural integration and assimilation. Cultural integration and assimilation. The Edomites had a history of both integration and conflict with other peoples. All right, an Edomite ruled world might promote cultural assimilation, encouraging diverse populations to adopt Edomite customs and values. What do we know that as today? We know that today as democracy. We're going to come and bring democracy to you. You see what I'm saying? Like Elder Malcolm loves to say, democracy, grenade. You know what I'm saying? But that's how Esau brings about his cultural integration and assimilation, man. You know what I'm saying? When you look at during the Biden administration, what was going on? All right. He was sending Kamala Harris to go over there to Africa, all right, to pretty much strong arm these people to accept the rainbow, man. If you don't like the rainbow, then we'll just take away your funding. We'll take away the money. We'll stop the money supply. We'll sanction you. We'll even bring in the military. You see what I'm saying? That's how they do it. Number 7, legal and judicial systems. The Edomites had their own legal and judicial systems, which were distinct from those of the Israelites. An Edomite-ruled world might implement a legal system based on ancient Near Eastern laws with a focus on justice and order, but in actual fact, that's the opposite of what they do. All right, the opposite of what they do is bring justice and equity. This is Psalms chapter 55 and verse 20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. And these people, all right, they sit at the helm of the United Nations, all right. They dictate all the rules, but they themselves are not subject to those rules. You see what I'm saying? They're essentially above the law. Because right now, they are complicit in war crimes that the whole world can see. Understand? Number 8, geopolitical strategy. Given their historical location, an Edomite-ruled world might prioritize control over strategic regions such as the Levant and the Red Sea to secure trade routes and resources. What's the Levant? What's the Levant region? It's also known as the Middle East. The Levant and the Red Sea is also known as the Middle East. They would control that. For what? To secure trade routes and resources. And this is exactly what they're doing. That's why I showed you, all right? That's why I showed you the general earlier, okay? That's why I showed you the general. Number 9, historical revisionism. That's another big one. Historical revisionism. An Edomite-ruled world might engage in historical revisionism, promoting a narrative that emphasizes Edomite contributions and achievements, potentially reinterpreting historical events to favor their perspective. This is why when you think about the light bulb, you think about who? Thomas Edison. You see what I'm saying? You don't think about the Israelite man, you know what I'm saying, the so-called black man who created the filament for that light. So the light was created by this so-called black man. I can't remember his name, but you can look him up. You can look him up and look at all the inventions, literally all the inventions that was made by so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Indians, man. If you look at these inventions, it essentially makes up America what it is today. It makes America what it is today, and it makes the world what it is today, man. You talking about air conditioners. You talking about heart transplants. Street lights, so on and so forth, man. All these different inventions. All right. If they was to tell the truth, it would truly shame these devils, man. It would truly shame each and every one of these devils, because they didn't build any of it. You see what I'm saying? And then what else? All right. Historical revisionism. It doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there, man. When you think about the Lord, the Heavenly Father, when you think about his only begotten Son, when you think about the angels, when you think about the Israelites, what do you think about? You see what I'm saying? Let's go to the book of Job. All right, Job chapter 9, verse 20. Job 9:24. It says, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he?" All right. He covers the faces of the judges, man. Let's go to 1 Maccabees. All right. This is 1 Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 46. It says, "Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Mesphah over against Jerusalem. For in Mesphah was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes and laid open the book of the law," which is the Bible, "and laid open the book of the law wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images," man. All right. This is why you don't know about the Israelites, who are the so-called Negroes who ruled Europe. All right. You don't know about them. You don't know about King James, all right, actually being what he was. You don't know about all these different characters in history. You know what I'm saying? Beethoven, Mozart, all these characters, man. You think that they look this way when they actually didn't look that way. You see what I'm saying? They look like something you would never notice. You would never think. All right? And I know that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, man. And Elder Malcolm gets into it all the time. All the time. You see what I'm saying? This is where you get your iconoclasm. This is where you get, okay, they take down the coats of arms that showed you who the rulers of Europe actually looked like, who the Vikings actually were. You see what I'm saying? They don't like to talk about that. In any case, let's continue on. Number 10, Social hierarchy. The Edomites had a structural social hierarchy with kings and nobles holding significant power. An Edomite ruled world might maintain a strong social hierarchy with clear distinction between ruling elites and the general population. This is where you have your haves and have-nots. This is where you have your 1% versus the 99%. You see what I'm saying? This is where you have the elites, the elite banking families at the very top. So this is what a world ruled by Edomites would look like. You see what I'm saying? Now, I asked it the opposite. Check it out. If the biblical Israelites were in control of the world today, how would they rule it? Okay? And if the biblical Israelites were in control of the world today, their rule would likely be influenced by the theological, legal, and cultural principles outlined in the Hebrew Bible. All right, the Tawawah, all right, also known as the Torah. The Israelites, as described in the Bible, had a unique form of governance that combined religious and political authority. Here are some key aspects of how an Israelite ruled world might be structured. Theocratic governance. The Israelites believed in a theocratic system where the Most High was the ultimate ruler and human leaders were seen as divine appointees. An Israelite-ruled world might feature a strong religious component in governance, with leaders seen as having a divine mandate. All right, this is where you have the concept of King Arthur. All right, and the Knights of the Round Tables, and they were known as saints. It was all based on the Israelite system. You see what I'm saying? Because in truth, like I said, those who ruled Europe were the Israelites. Okay? Of the Southern Kingdom specifically. And when you look at the difference between the pagan Roman Empire, all right, the pagan Roman Empire and opposed to the Holy Roman Empire, who ruled the Holy Roman Empire? It was Jade. All right. When you go into the five good emperors, okay, it's going into the Israelites who ruled Rome. You see? Number 2, legal system based on the Torah. All right. The Tawawah, which is the first 5 books of Moses, provides a comprehensive legal code. An Israelite-ruled world might implement a legal system heavily based on these laws, covering aspects such as justice, morality, and social conduct. All right. Number 3, covenant relationships. I'm going to have to speed this up a little bit. Covenant relationship. The Israelites understood their relationship with the Most High as a covenant. This might translate into a governance model that emphasizes a covenant relationship between the ruler and the ruled, with mutual obligations and responsibilities. Yes, we're going to treat these heathen nations with equity. All right, and it's going to be based upon covenants. You know what I'm saying? Or shall I say, Salaki? Let me fix that. But as a matter of fact, let me get what the scripture said real quick. All right. You trip on your words sometimes. However, let's go to the book of Zechariah. All right, Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 9. It says, "And the Lord shall be king over all the earth, and in that day shall there be one Lord, and his name one." Jumping down to 16. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. So every year, these heathen are going to participate in one of our high holy days. All right, the Feast of Tabernacles. This is a form of a covenant. All right, if they do not come up to worship the King and to keep our feast, then you keep reading. All right, you keep reading, and it's going to there's going to be a punishment for them. All right, there's going to be a punishment for them if they do not keep this custom. All right, so that's also known as a covenant. Okay, if you do this well, you're going to be blessed. If you don't do it, there's going to be consequences for you. You see? Prophetic influence. The role of prophets in Israelite society was significant. An Israelite-ruled world might place a strong emphasis on the guidance and counsel of spiritual leaders and prophets who would provide moral and ethical direction. All right? Back in the ancient world, the prophets were very much at the forefront of guiding Israel, man. You know what I'm saying? The only one that was higher than the king was a prophet. Right? Because the prophet gets insight directly from the Heavenly Father. Okay, so let's go here real quick. Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 2. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountains of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains. All right, mountains signifies governments. And shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and the house of the Most High, the God of Jacob. And he will teach us of his ways, and he will teach us of his ways. All right, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord Yahweh from Jerusalem. And he will judge, and he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. All right? And we're going to be guiding them. We're going to be teaching them these ways. Number 5, social justice and welfare. The Bible emphasizes social justice with commands to care for the poor and widowed and orphaned and the alien. An Israelite-ruled world might prioritize social welfare programs and policies aimed at reducing inequality and supporting vulnerable populations. All right, let's go here. Let's get this precept. All right, this is Revelation chapter 22 and verse 2. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. All right. So even though these other nations are going to be subjected under our rule, okay, and essentially slaves in the kingdom, they're going to be living properly. They're going to be living, all right, prosperously, all right, and prosperously, excuse me. All right. They're going to have access to their own lands. All right. There's going to be no polluted air, no polluted crops, no polluted land. Okay. Clean air, clean water. You see what I'm saying? Everyone will have access to these things. You see what I'm saying? Social justice and welfare. When you take, for example, the northern tribes of Gad, the northern tribe of Gad, right? All right, we had a policy If you didn't have a teepee, we would make a teepee for you. If you didn't have a horse, we would give you a horse. If you didn't have a blanket, we would give you a blanket. If you didn't have a canoe, we would build one for you. You see what I'm saying? The scriptures go into the gathering of grapes. You are always supposed to keep a good portion for the poor. All right, so that there will be some left for everyone else, man. Nobody would go without the bare necessities of living. You see? Religious observance. Number 6. Religious practices such as the observance of the Sabbath, dietary laws, and festivals are central to Israelite identity. An Israelite-ruled world might encourage or enforce these practices, shaping the rhythm of daily and social and seasonal life. You know what I'm saying? Shaping the rhythm of daily and seasonal life. You know, when you think about the Sabbath days, and even a land Sabbath, for 6 years you can plow and till the land. You know what I'm saying? But on the 7th year, you give that land a year to rest. You see what I'm saying? Keeping the dietary laws, man. We ain't gonna be no more of this swine and crawfish and lobster and clam and all that stuff. Okay? No, you're gonna keep all the recycling creatures where they belong, to recycle the earth. You see what I'm saying? Number 7. Temple and worship. The Temple of Jerusalem was the center of Israelite religious life. An Israelite-ruled world might rebuild the temple and make it the focal point of religious and political life, with significant resources and attention dictated to its maintenance and operation. All right, which we won't need a temple. We won't have a temple because Yahushua will be the temple, and he will be amongst us. That's why all the nations, as we read earlier, all the nations are going to flow to our land. All right, and they will get counsel. Number 8, economic policies. The Bible includes economic policies such as the prohibition of usury among fellow Israelites and the practice of leaving a portion of the harvest for the poor. I just mentioned that. An Israelite-ruled world might implement economic policies that reflect these principles, promoting fairness and generosity. You see what I'm saying? If you go in, ask for a loan, I'm not going to tell you to pay me back that same amount and then double the amount so you can never pay it back. You see what I'm saying? That's wickedness. All right? This is why you got so much shit going on in the world today, man. Military defense. The Israelites had a history of military conflicts and defense. An Israelite-led world might prioritize a strong military to protect the nation and its interests, with a focus on defense and security, which that's not going to happen because there's not going to be any more wars, as we just read in Isaiah, the 2nd chapter. Number 10, cultural homogeneity. Cultural homogeneity. Cultural homogeneity. The Israelites had a strong sense of cultural and ethnic identity. An Israelite-ruled world might promote cultural homogeneity, encouraging the adoption of Israelite customs, values, and languages. Again, in Isaiah, the 2nd chapter. Number 11, educational focuses. Education, particularly in religious and moral instruction, was highly valued. An Israelite-ruled world might emphasize education with a curriculum that includes religious studies, ethical teachings, and moral development. All right, the same thing. Number 12. That's funny because when you go into the Israelites, how the world's going to be ruled under the Israelites, he gives you 12 points. That's spiritual. Environmental stewardship. The Bible includes principles of environmental stewardship, such as the Sabbath year, I just told you that, and the Jubilee, all right? And the Jubilee, after a certain amount of time, all right, you forgive debts. After a certain amount of time, you forgive debts. You see what I'm saying? And the Jubilee, which involves allowing the land to rest and restoring equity. An Israelite-ruled world might implement policies aimed at environmental conservation and sustainable practices. The world that we're living in right now, and the customs and the practices, is all unsustainable. Okay? In summary, an Israelite-ruled world today would likely be characterized by a strong theocratic governance, a legal system based on biblical law, and a focus on social justice, religious observance, and cultural identity. The exact implementation of these principles would depend on how modern Israelite rulers adapt their ancient traditions to the complexities of contemporary global governance. And this is exactly what we're going back to. All right, ain't gonna be nothing modern. We're just gonna go back to it. You know what I'm saying? Of course, it's gonna be far out technology on the planet Earth. Yes, all these great things, but the traditions will remain. The traditions will remain. No matter how much technology is on the earth, it's all going to be complementary. All right, it's going to be in unison. It's going to be a part of the rhythm of the earth. Okay. So let me see. Amos chapter 9, verse 11. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David and the fallen, that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. And I will raise up ruins. I will raise up his ruins and will build it as in days of old. So we're going back to those times. We're going back to those customs. All right. So let me end it off with this. This is 2 Esdras, chapter 6, verse 7. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. For the Edomites is the end of the world, and the Israelites is the beginning of it that followeth, man. I pray this lesson was edifying to the elect of the nation of Israel. This has been your brother Zakaria Allah, branched out here in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. In closing, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahawashi, Bahashem Ruach. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and who teach well. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. Shalom.